welcome back to our author spotlights of the Cinderella Monologues. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today and to report that we are holding strong on our own in the women's biographies category of Amazon. Please go and continue to buy the paperback book. It's right here on the screen. This is the Amazon short link, so it's all set for you. Jump on that today and help us continue to be in the top rankings of this very competitive category. And, we are a paperback and we're competing against other ebooks and audiobooks. So it's extra special for many of our authors to be, in such good standing. And stay tuned because we will have an ebook launch coming up on November 5th. So mark your calendars for that. That's a Saturday. We'll be doing more fun prizes and giveaways and author spotlights at that time. But we'd love to see the Cinderella Monologues in your hands. So that's why we urge you to get your paperback copies. We'd love to see it on your bookshelves and as gifts for your family, friends, and associates. And, just thinking about this roller coaster ride that we've been on, right? So one of our fellow authors, Lorraine Tong, she said it so beautifully. It's like a roller coaster. 1 minute we're like really high up, and then 1 minute we're down in the bottom, and it's just constantly a flux, depending on book sales. And Amazon only ranks us, per hour or so, and so it's really hard just to capture that. And we did our best to rally everyone together on the day of our paperback launch to order the books at the same time. But now, we're so thrilled to see that book sales are still coming in. People are jumping online to buy the book when they can. So it's all good. We're very grateful, thankful for the stories to be out there and for you to share them. So today I am so, oh my gosh, so excited to sit down with Renée Michaud. She has become such a wonderful, light shining person in our community of authors. And she's a creative as well. She's a self-taught multidisciplinary artist from Canada. And it was so wonderful because we got to hear her rap during our live stream launch. It was such a surprise. And she gave us an exclusive rap performance. And I'm hoping that she'll do that again with us today. But in addition to rapping, she's also a DJ, a poet, and a visual expressive artist. And we're so thrilled to sit down with her and to talk about, how does one find their creative voice? And what does it mean to be in community? And because those are two things that she's definitely an expert in. And so join our conversation. We're here talking today about how does Cinderella find her creative voice? So everyone, please help me welcome Renée. Hello, Renée. Good morning.
Hey, Olivia. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm delighted that you're here. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you again after our live stream launch.
Yeah, thank you. Very exciting to see how the book's doing. Yes.
And it was quite remarkable, like on the day of the launch and the time that we had you come on to speak to everyone, the book just arrived. So you did a whole unwrapping for us too.
Yeah, the timing was perfect. It was like 15 minutes before I got a knock at the door, and I was like, oh, this is so perfect timing to unpack it, to open it up, to feel it. I was surprised by how thick it was and didn't realize how many stories there were and how it came up to, 23 stories about women who have overcome adversity. Yeah.
Indeed. So we got two types of wrapping. We got the unwrapping.
Nice.
And then we got you wrapping.
Yeah, double wrap.
Double wraps. Awesome. So how is it that you came to know Mila and decided to participate in the Cinderella Monologues?
Yeah, I heard about Mila's work through the Week of Kindness. And so it was like an online summit, and she was, encouraging people to pen their stories. And I saw an invitation to be part of this Cinderella Monologues piece. And sometimes there's just those things that come across your path where you're like, this is really interesting, but also really scary. And I'm going to think about it. And I was like, I need to do this. I need to do this. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's a calling, right? Like a need. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, wait, okay, I can see myself in this. I do see myself and, many women, all women, everyone has a Cinderella story, right? If you're here, you have gone through adversity and you've transformed. So I was like, I want to tell my story, I think to myself first, right? Just like, looking back at my life and creating this mini memoir. and making sense of everything that I've gone through so far, and then sharing it with others to give them permission to do so as well.
Excellent. And your chapter title is called Introducing a Reclaimed Creative Voice. So that word reclaim sticks out for me. What is the inspiration behind this chapter title?
Yeah, absolutely. It is important to put that word in there because I think, there's a lot of layers here, but as children, we're really creative, we're really expressive. We want to dance and make art, and we're not judging ourselves, and we don't have these big egos. And then that starts to shift, and we are told that something's not good enough, or we're told that it's not a worthwhile pursuit. We're told to focus on certain areas in our lives, and that, arts are frivolous and they get cut from budgets first. So there's that whole piece where we have to reclaim the value of being creative and being expressive and telling stories that are meaningful to us. And then I think there's this other layer of being a woman or being gender fluid, and that too, being told directly and indirectly that our voice is not as important. It doesn't matter as much, and it doesn't hold as much weight. And so why bother? Tell your story. And so it's about reclaiming that self-worth, that power, and working towards gender equality, really.
Fantastic. And as I was going through your chapter, what stood out for me too is that you list out these 20 life moments that made you go inward to figure out, what is the next phase for you? What's next for Renee? So in thinking of that list of 20, what stood out for you the most?
Yeah, it could have been 10, it could have been 30, but I just thought that was like a nice round number. I was like, let's go for 20. I'm 35 years old and I've got more years to live, so we'll start there. I would say the one that was the most significant would probably be when I had my first coaching session with a female mentor, and I specifically had requested one that had experience in entrepreneurship, had worked in like a male-dominated industry, and alas, there was my fairy godmother. And she asked me questions that I hadn't been asked before, and I hadn't thought about, and it was about me and my values and my strengths and my interests. And she helped me make that transition from what I was doing then, working in communications, which I love communications, but just taking it to the next step. What do I want to communicate about and how? And that eventually led to me being able to leave my 9-to-5 job and do something that was more aligned with my calling, which was creativity and spirituality. I wanted to dig into those topics, and I needed more time. I needed more space to do that. That was my big one. Yeah.
Excellent. So I understand that you're an associate certified coach, but you actually want to, you're actually back in school now to be a therapist. So what is the distinction there?
Yeah, absolutely.
To pursue that?
Yeah, good question. They're related for sure, right? It's someone who's there to walk alongside you as you make sense of some decisions that you have coming up, a direction that you want to take. There's been change in your life and you want some support with that. And so coaching is often focused on the present and the future. So, where are you now and where do you want to go? And what steps do you need to take to go in that direction? Whereas therapy, counseling will often look at also our past, our emotional past as well, because there's this baggage that we carry. There's these things that we're aware of, that we're not as much aware of, that we bring with us into each conversation, in each space, and the way that we show up in the world and our mindset. And I realized starting coaching how closely those were connected, and how being creative opened us up to ourselves and opened us up to our past. And I wanted more skills and theory and knowledge to be able to support people through that process. So that's the next leap that I'm taking from coach to art therapist specifically.
Yeah, in my mind, I used to just overlap the two. So I think there's a real distinction that you're making there, right? To integrate more of someone's past experiences.
Exactly. Yeah, a little bit more space for integration, exactly, through the therapy piece.
So what might someone experience, right, with your work as they're going through something with you? Are you introducing some sort of writing or imagery?
Yeah. What's great is that there's so many options. So I say, creative expressive arts, and it could be visual, it could be poetry, it could be songwriting, it could be movement and dance. It depends who's there and what they want to do. So it's also responsive to the people. And so it might be a one-on-one session, like maybe we're doing a Zoom, and they use whatever materials they have available. And I can give them prompts. So it could be like use 2 lines to express how you've been feeling or what's alive for you right now. And you think it's really simple, 2 lines, like what's that really going to tell me? But then you do it and you're like, wait, this line's crooked and this line's straight. And what does that mean? Like, oh, okay, this is actually what I'm representing. And it just gives you such a richness of information about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're moving through. So that's just one example, but there's so many things that we could do, right? We could do clay, we could do painting, we could do literature, writing. Yeah, the list is infinite.
Okay, if you are watching this, I'm going to put you to the task. So right now, grab a piece of paper and a pen and draw 2 lines.
Yeah.
And share with us if you are feeling brave. Share this in the comments. Take a picture, or maybe even later on replay. Take a picture and upload it of your 2 lines in the chat. We'd love to see it. We'd love to see it. So I might be just doing that too, Renee. And that's so cool that, you can guide them through this, and then right away you can kind of give them another analytical interpretation to give some context to what they might be feeling or experiencing.
Yeah, because it's one thing to say like, oh, I'm doing okay, or oh, I'm kind of feeling low, or like with the imagery, you get all this extra information. They're metaphors and they're rich with meaning. So when I started doing my training a year ago, I was like, wow, I had no idea. Yeah, it's pretty eye-opening and mind-blowing and very helpful.
That is. Oh, I can't wait to do this 2-line things. So your company website is called Unity, and I like the way you spelled it with 2 E's. Can you explain that a little bit too? Because it's a creative and coaching company.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So good question. You pronounced it well. Good job. It is Unity. People are like, Unity. It's fine. Whatever. Right. As artists, we always want to be a little bit different. And so I was given this name when I was I was on a walk with a friend through a forest. And it kind of just came to me as I was discussing with him where I wanted to take this company. And the word Unity came. But as I wrote it out in the snow, it was the winter in Canada, I was like, it doesn't feel right, just kind of straight up with the I. And I realized that I could put 2 E's and make the shortened Nay in there, which is short for Renee. And so that was my nickname growing up. It still is. People call me Nay or Nay. And so I wanted to put myself in unity. I love to create experiences where people gather, we come together, we connect, we build community, but also working with people individually or in small groups. I also want to support people to have unity between themselves, their inside, so their thoughts, their feelings, so mind, body, and spirit. So that's the theme. It's all about unity, and I have a role to play in that, and everyone has a role to play in us coming together and uplifting each other.
I love that your nickname is Nene.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Nene.
Awesome. And we've got some chats coming in. Amanda, oh, what a supportive friend you are. So much love, creativity, and spirituality are my values too. Nice. Amanda, I see you in our Facebook group of the Cinderella Monologues. You're just so awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of it all and supporting Renee and so many of our fellow co-authors too. Amanda, I'd love to see your lines. I just have to go off screen and grab a piece of paper. So I would like to take advantage of this coaching session.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
All right. So just draw 2 lines.
Yep. Any 2 lines.
Any 2 lines. Okay. Those are my 2 lines.
Okay, let me see. All right. Cool. Nice. Yeah. Okay. And so I'm just looking at it here. You've got 2 lines, and are they going straight up, or have you turned your page? Oh, I lost your volume for some reason. Let's see.
Oh, I had my paper flat on the desk, and then I just drew straight down.
Okay, so straight down.
That's interesting that you could go up. Nope, I was straight down.
Yeah, you went straight down. Yeah, and looking at it now, like what meaning does it have for you?
It looks like a highway.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And a parallel, right? Like things are moving in a parallel direction.
Okay. Cool. Things are moving in a parallel direction. Yeah. Highway. And like, if you relate that back to you in your life right now, what meaning would you make of it?
I feel like, I'm moving on this like fast highway, but I'm in the wrong car.
Oh.
Like I need a super fast car,
Oh, yeah.
right? To be on
Yeah.
this highway, but I'm riding in a slow car. But
Okay.
yet the highway is like moving past me.
Yeah. Okay. So I can hear that there's like a speed right now. There's like a fast pace to life. Yeah. And your car, you want it to be a little bit quicker. You want a faster car. Yeah. Good. And so,
Right?
like,
Otherwise I'll be left behind.
yeah. 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 And you don't want to be left behind. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like people around you too are moving quickly, I imagine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. So this is just an example, right? It's like a little mini kind of experiment or a session, but we can do this and we can really draw it out and we can have these long conversations about what the metaphors are. So yeah, and so we can use it in a coaching space, but we can also use it in a counseling space as well and get into more emotional depth. Yeah, so creativity is just really powerful. The arts are surprising and helpful. Thanks for doing that. That was brave, Olivia. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to have people experience because this might be something a little bit different, right? Like you've heard of coaching, and I think typical coaching, they want, like you said, it talks about your present and your future, and how do they tie in other creative expression?
Yeah, it's just another way of thinking. It's more, right brain rather than left brain. And sometimes right brain too can be associated more with like emotionality, with femininity as well. And those aren't bad things. Those are helpful. When we're in touch with our emotions, it gives us information. And so I feel like even bringing in creativity for me is like an act of feminism into more spaces. I would love it if, going for coffee would be synonymous with like, hey, let's get together and make some art. And it doesn't have to be fine art, but like, let's get together and connect and have fun and bring this other dimension into our relationship.
So many comments are coming through for you. Nancy is clapping for you, and Karen has written here. Renee has blossomed in so many ways. Awesome.
So
Got
kind.
lots of supporters here. Because I think in previous coaching, not that it was bad, but it just seemed like very like textbook, right? Like I had to fill out a bunch of tests and assessments
Right.
and had to
Yeah.
get like these plans. And there's really no way for me to like really, and I'm very creative. Well, actually now I'm finding ways to be creative. I think that as a kid, I was creative and, we took art classes and music classes, but then as you got older, like I didn't have those activities anymore.
Exactly.
Didn't make time for creativity because I was like, oh, it's not relevant to the job or it's not welcomed here in a way.
Exactly. I think there's this big cultural piece, right? Where art and music and dance and all that is okay if you're a kid, and after that it's childish. But it's not. It's spirit food, it's soul food. Like we need it. We go to art and music and concerts and gatherings to like resource ourselves. And so, why can't we do that more as adults and have fun and play and bring balance to our lives? Yeah.
Oh,
That's the
I
case.
love that. Art is spirit food. Yes.
Yeah.
It's nourishing your soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, color and shape and movement, sound, like it's all magical stuff. Like we need that in our lives. And it's one thing to go and attend, participate, and consume, but I think it's another thing to like express and create and like put yourself into it, and for us to like ripple that out into the culture more. So you don't have to be a kid to make art, and your art doesn't have to be perfect. It can be for the sake of and the joy of making art.
And I just love how each of the women authors, although we're relatively new to each other in this community, like each of your stories are building upon each other. I just sat down with Chris Dyer the other day, and she's a creative visionary, and she holds these workshops online, right, with embellishing crystals, etc. And then she made a really good statement about how creativity is a meditative state. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have, because people think about health and wellness and you have to do XYZ activities, but just sitting down and coloring or finding ways to gather things, materials around you and making a scrapbook or whatever. Having some analog activities, right? Because we're always so digital.
Yes, exactly. Like the hands-on, the kinesthetic piece, the tactile piece. It brings us back to like just the moment and being present for sure. We can get into a state of flow, which I found writing this chapter actually brought me into a state of flow surprisingly. Because often writing can be challenging for me. I'm like, am I saying the right thing? I'm editing as I'm going. Is it going to be good enough? But when I was writing my personal story, it was a different type of writing. It was just like, okay, let's go, let's flow. And then 3 hours would be gone. I'd be like, wow, look at that progress. So that was a surprising experience of flow for me for writing my chapter.
I'm so glad you brought that up about what surprised you, because you are a writer yourself, right? You write poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And when you rap, I mean, are you rapping like in a state of flow, or do you have the lyrics formed already?
Yeah, so I think everyone has a bit of a different process, but my preferred style is to find a beat, find a melody that resonates with me emotionally, where I hear it and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's how I'm feeling, that's how I'm vibing. My preferred style is chill hop, so it's kind of like a slower R&B, and it's like almost like if like rap had a baby with R&B and with like spoken word. That's kind of my style where I am at today. And so from there, I'll just start expressing like intuitively. I'll just start saying words that come to mind. And then when I kind of get stuck, I've got a couple of lines, I'll go back to the beginning and I'll restart, and then I'll keep building off of every line. And so sometimes to finish a song, it'll take multiple writing sessions. So I don't think, we shouldn't expect to sit down and finish a song in an hour. Like that's not realistic. You start, you flow, you might pause, take a break, come back, you're inspired later, you add a chorus. Yeah, so it's like an iterative process. But for me, it's very expressive and intuitive. Yeah, I'm writing about what I care about right now. My thoughts, my feelings, what's real for me in my life.
As an artist, do you have a particular muse? Is there something that like is your go-to for inspiration?
Yeah, for me, it's often like female hip hop artists, R&B as well, like Beyonce, SZA, just really like empowered women get me really jazzed up. So when I listen to them, I'm like, oh yeah, sweet, cool. Yeah, I got this. That's what art does. Like we inspire each other. So that's how it works.
And what would be like a signature Renée Michaud element?
In the music, you mean?
Or anything in the music, like how would we identify like this is a signature Renée Michaud piece?
Yeah, I think it's that spoken word piece to the rap. It comes out a little bit differently. It's quite unique. Yeah, if like to give you an example, right? So something like, I'm a warrior, making effing order here, telling stories dear, better open up your ears, make my point crystal clear, stopping on my fear, dropping on my walls, see what's really here. Like there's a certain flow that I have, and I think every artist has their own unique flow. So when you hear someone on the radio, you're like, oh, that's them. And that's not something that I've constructed. It's just something that has emerged over the past couple of years of starting to write poetry and rap and just express more creatively with art.
That was so awesome. Thank you for just a snippet there, Renée. Fantastic.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I will say, oh yes, and look, we got fans here.
Yeah, Amanda's more than a fan. Amanda is actually my co-writer friend who's also in Canada. And without her, I wouldn't be the artist that I am. We have inspired each other. We've written together. And that's an important part of creating, is finding community so that you can support one another. Yeah. So what's up, girl? Hey, we got more shows to do.
That's awesome. Well, we started off this conversation with how does Cinderella find a creative voice? So what can you tie into that theme, Renée, and thinking about Cinderella, the storybook character, and how does she find her creative voice?
Yeah. I think too, like creativity is such a good container for hardship. And we know Cinderella was going through hardship. right? She wasn't allowed to go to the ball, and she had lost parents, and then she had the wicked stepmother and the wicked stepdaughters. So there was adversity there. And what did she do? She turned it into song. And so that's a really great way to take pain and turn it into purpose for our own personal healing process. And then we can share it with the community, and it ends up being a gift for the community, because we're reminded that we're not alone in our challenges and our suffering, and that we can overcome in many ways. And creative expressive arts is just one of the tools that we have as humans, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool part of being human, art and music and dance.
Indeed. I love that. Turning the pain into purpose. And she found a community, right? Like she found the community in the mice.
Yeah, the little squeakers. Yeah.
And in her fairy godmother, and who rallied around her.
That's right. Yeah, and that fairy godmother piece is really important as well. For me, creativity is a spiritual practice as well as a health practice. And it's important for us to have role models and mentors and coaches and counselors, all those pieces also. People who are a little bit further ahead on the path than we are, like Mila for me, and like you for me, right? So, yeah.
Excellent. Wow, Renee. You mentioned something else in the book too, in your bio, that art saves lives. I mean, that's such a powerful and bold statement. So in what ways has that proven true to you, that art saves lives?
Yeah, absolutely. We go to it for sustenance. It's something that we look forward to. It gives us hope in dark times. It reminds us that we're not alone. And also, just in a really practical sense, art is a great tool for supporting good mental health. So when we're in a crisis, when we're trying to make sense of our experience, art is there. And I think if we think back to the earlier times of COVID, I know we're not completely out of the dark, but the harder lockdown times, when we had less art, music, concerts, that was a gray world. That was dreary. We couldn't get together and express ourselves and celebrate and be vibrant. And so, that's the difference. That's the difference that art makes in the world. It takes it from gray and brings it into more color and vibrancy, especially when we need it, when times are hard for whatever reason. And we all go through that.
Beautiful. And then there's a quote at the end of your chapter. Do you want to read it out loud for everyone?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. This is such a beauty one. All right. Art has always been the raft onto which we climb to save our sanity. I don't see a different purpose for it now. Dorothea Tanning. I love that piece. Yeah, the raft on which we climb to save our sanity.
I know, it's such a beautiful quote. And and I love it. I keep going back to the art is a spirit food, right? Like I'm feeding my spirit when Absolutely. I take time out for that.
Yeah, and we do. We have to. Yeah. And it's important to be creative and to be expressive. And it's important also to rest and to take in other people's creativity and other groups' creativity. Because it's this sort of continuous creative cycle, and we want to create, but we also want to rest. And during rest, art can provide us with that restful space to take in.
Wonderful. And before we end our segment, I'd love for you to just touch upon a little bit about this authentic communication, because that's a really important part of your work too, that you're helping others to facilitate authentic conversations. So what does that look like? Is there one tip that you can give us?
Yeah, I think that it's about balancing self and other, first of all. So when we're in conversation, we're in communication, are we only speaking from our lenses, like our glasses? Am I only talking to you through my point of view? Or do I take a moment and pause, take mine off, and put your awesome heart glasses on and imagine how will my words land with Olivia? How might they make her feel? What might be motivating her, and what might be her reaction or concerns? And so it's this idea of, first of all, considering empathy and togetherness, but also balancing out our truth. So it's not holding back either what we believe, our perspective, our values, our opinions, because we're scared that we might be wrong, we might hurt someone's feelings, it might cause temporary tension. So it's a balancing act of, I've heard it before as truth and togetherness. So being authentic in sharing what's on our mind and also considering the other people in the room. So it's a complex and ongoing act to be authentic, I think.
And what you just said kind of reminds me of the talking stick too. And you have mixed ancestry in your background. You know, has that come through with the talking stick and honoring words in that way?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's definitely about taking turns. Balancing listening and speaking, I think, is another form of authentic communication. Not always being in one position, but taking turns. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Renee, it's been such a delightful conversation to have you here. So thrilled. And this is just the beginning. I feel like we're going to have some more collaborations to come.
Yeah, I would love it.
Absolutely. And so all of you watching, Amanda, Nancy, thank you so much for joining. Karen, too, thank you for your support and tuning in and listening to this segment. And please, if you haven't followed Renee on Instagram yet, do so right now. She has some fantastic posts, lots of creative posts that will be inspiring, helping you to get, the one I love about your posts is inspiring us to get back into nature. Getting back in touch with nature. I love it when you post those things.
Yeah, that's a good point. We didn't talk much about it today. Maybe it didn't make as much of my book, but that is so foundational. I go to nature every day, have to. So yes, nature will also resource us, and it supports our creativity to pause and to connect with nature and let nature inspire us, because nature is beautiful.
You're even wearing a nature kind of shirt.
Flowers, always flowers.
I love that shirt. Okay, and then also please visit unity.ca, which is Renee's website. So you can follow up with her practice, and soon to be therapist providing programs for you. And then of course she's on LinkedIn, so connect with her on LinkedIn, and then follow Renee on Facebook as well too. So those are all the links. And of course, buy the book.
It's not just my story, it's other amazing women's stories, and they've inspired me. And so we keep this community going to uplift each other as women, as allies, and a better balanced, gender equal world.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, and stay tuned tomorrow for another author spotlight. Renee will be in touch. Thank you again.
Thank you, Olivia, for hosting this. You're a rock star.
Takes one to know one. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.